Hi, in this series here, in this lesson, we're going to talk about solar energy in the atmosphere. If you have not studied the atmosphere before, I would advise watching the Brain Pop atmosphere animation to kind of give you some background information about what the atmosphere is and why it's important. We have actually talked about that already in class, so we're going to go ahead and skip that for now. Let's talk about we're going to focus mostly on energy in this little mini lesson. Energy is the ability to do work. Heat and light are a couple of forms of energy. Thermal energy is the total energy of motion in the particles of a substance. All substances are made up of little tiny particles that we call atoms, including gases and liquids. And those little particles move around, those little atoms move around. And how much they move around, we call that its thermal energy. Energy can actually change its form and it can move from place to place. Earth gets most of its heat or thermal energy from the sun. The sun gives off photons of energy that travel in waves. All of the wavelengths of the sun's energy make up what's known as the electromagnetic, or EM, spectrum. There are whole lessons on the EM or electromagnetic spectrum, but for this lesson that's not that important for us. You should know about infrared energy though. Infrared energy heats up the Earth the most. It is where most of our heat comes from to keep our planet warm. And I've got a slide later, we'll talk more about that. Continuing on, energy from the sun. Number 5, energy from the sun is not equal over the Earth. It's more focused at the equator than it is at the poles. So at the equator, it gets more direct, more intense energy than it does as you move farther north or farther south from the equator. Those latitude differences, that's the difference north and south, then result in differences in energy. Those energy differences cause air to rise or sink. So we end up with rising and sinking air in different parts of our planet. This is the reason why we have weather and winds. And I'm going to go ahead and continue with our mini lesson here. We're nearly done, but I again would encourage you to watch the video on the Brain Pop sun animation. Due to copyright, we're not going to include that in this video. Talk about the greenhouse effect. The greenhouse gases in the atmosphere absorb or take in heat. There's a group of gases, again, you don't have to know these specific gases. Carbon dioxide is probably the most famous one, but there are other ones like methane. These gases are really good at absorbing or taking in heat, so we call those greenhouse gases. This is called the greenhouse effect, and it makes the planet warmer. When our atmosphere traps heat, we call that the greenhouse effect, because it's similar to the way a plastic or glass greenhouse works. Light energy comes in and changes into different types of energy and gets trapped inside that greenhouse. Over time, human actions have actually increased the gases that absorb the heat, and so have increased the greenhouse effect. By increasing the gases that trap the heat, we are increasing that process. Here you see a diagram. This is taken from the ck12.org website. Natural greenhouse effect, where the sun gives off this solar radiation and it heats up the water and heats up the land, and then it's given off or re-radiated as infrared heat mostly. And we have these gases, again, this is a natural process, CO2 and methane. They trap that heat. Humans have enhanced or increased this effect because we have increased the amount of these gases. Therefore, more heat is trapped. And again, we will talk more about the greenhouse effect when we talk about our weather and climate unit. And this is our last slide in this little mini series. And again, I would encourage you to watch the Brain Pop on the greenhouse effect, that animation, but we cannot record that and include that in this little mini lesson. And I've got some additional resources here. A lot of this information is in our student textbook, our Prentice Hall textbook, but most of this information included here is actually taken from the ck12.org website in their middle school earth science series.